Phone attacks. Now that you've mastered email phishing kung fu, let's move on to everyone's favorite thing, phones. You probably use your cell phone for Facebook, Clash of Clans, and Angry Birds more than you do to make phone calls. Don't worry, we do too. Regardless, communicating through ye on telephone is an extremely common practice in organizations. As such, you can imagine attackers love to use phones in social engineering attacks. Let's go over some differences between phone email attacks. You might think that a phone call is more risky to an attacker. While that may be true, a single call is worth 1,000 emails when done correctly. Careful wording, pacing, tone, and pretext can let an experienced attacker talk their way around just about anything. Let's go over these tactics so you know what we mean. First, pretext is the backstory an attacker uses to describe themselves or their situation. As with email, an attacker may do research to make sure the backstory for contacting you is believable and appears to be legitimate. Remember to apply a healthy dose of professional skepticism, even if they lay down the smooth lines of, "Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe." Next, pacing a call means controlling how time-sensitive the conversation feels. For example, an attacker might rush the conversation so you examine the request poorly, or possibly slow things down to make small talk and gather more information. Last, word choice and tone might be used to appear friendly, authoritative, or confused depending on what they need from you. If they claim to be in a position of authority or refer to you by a friend or boss, you might be more inclined to follow their directions or ask fewer questions. Similarly, you are more likely to trust someone who seems humorous and personable. So let's talk about how you might go about verifying that someone who is they say they are on the phone. An attacker might start the call stating their name and position to establish pretext and trust. Depending on who an attacker is impersonating, they might try to get you to give up sensitive information or run an application on your phone or workstation. There are 4 lessons to remember to become a phone jitsu master. First, be wary of incoming calls. Caller ID can be spoofed to match the organization an attacker might be impersonating. If you don't initiate the call, how can you be so sure they are who they say they are? Look up the phone number yourself and initiate the call. Next, don't call a number left in a voicemail or sent via a text message. No reputable organization is going to request a callback via a text message. Third, only download applications through official channels. Your friendly neighborhood IT department will not call you up and ask you to download and run a file from the internet. Be familiar with your organization's IT department and verify the caller's identity if they're going to ask you to visit a website, download a file, or run an application. Lastly, never give out personal or corporate information over the phone. Attackers often call repeatedly, obtaining information bit by bit until the big picture becomes clear. Even the smallest detail can be used by an attacker to leverage a much larger attack. Follow the old Navy saying, loose lips sink ships. They will have specifically chosen this identity based on what information they are trying to gather. Don't let your mind assume they are safe because they sound like any other call you might receive. If they claim to be a person you can find a number for, simply place them on hold and dial the real number on another line. If you get to their voicemail, compare the voice and see if it matches. If another person picks up, then you clearly know something is amiss. If you know a trusted individual who can vouch for a caller's identity, don't be afraid to ask. For the more sensitive situations, an in-person arrangement might be the best response. We know what you're thinking. I'll just use caller ID. That never lies, right? While that might work, in some situations, a skilled attacker has ways around that. Remember to stay attentive, skeptical, and in control. Checking identities on phone calls may seem extreme, but without it, an attacker has the upper hand from the start. At this point, it might seem the best solution is simply just disconnect your phone, internet, and email, and go live in the woods with Bubba and the Doomsday Preppers. Fortunately, that's not necessary. Don't be afraid to ask questions or provide a skeptically professional response. Excuse me, can I get your name so I can call you back at the number provided on your website? Or, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable providing that information over the phone. How about, our company's security policy prohibits me from providing that information. These are all great responses that help protect you personally as well as your organization from attack. Phone attacks. Now that you've mastered email phishing kung fu, let's move on to everyone's favorite thing, phones. You probably use your cell phone for Facebook, Clash of Clans, and Angry Birds more than you do to make phone calls. Don't worry, we do too. Regardless, communicating through "ye on telephone" is an extremely common practice in organizations. As such, you can imagine attackers love to use phones in social engineering attacks. Let's go over some differences between phone email attacks. You might think that a phone call is more risky to an attacker. While that may be true, a single call is worth 1,000 emails when done correctly. Careful wording, pacing, tone, and pretext can let an experienced attacker talk their way around just about anything. Let's go over these tactics so you know what we mean. First, pretext is the backstory an attacker uses to describe themselves or their situation. As with email, an attacker may do research to make sure the backstory for contacting you is believable and appears to be legitimate. Remember to apply a healthy dose of professional skepticism, even if they lay down the smooth lines of, "Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe." Next, pacing a call means controlling how time sensitive the conversation feels. For example, an attacker might rush the conversation so you examine the request poorly, or possibly slow things down to make small talk and gather more information. Last, word choice and tone might be used to appear friendly, authoritative, or confused depending on what they need from you. If they claim to be in a position of authority or refer to you by a friend or boss, you might be more inclined to follow their directions or ask fewer questions. Similarly, you are more likely to trust someone who seems humorous and personable. So let's talk about how you might go about verifying that someone who is they say they are on the phone. An attacker might start the call stating their name and position to establish pretext and trust. Depending on who an attacker is impersonating, they might try to get you to give up sensitive information or run an application on your phone or workstation. There are 4 lessons to remember to become a phone jitsu master. First, be wary of incoming calls. Caller ID can be spoofed to match the organization an attacker might be impersonating. If you don't initiate the call, how can you be so sure they are who they say they are? Look up the phone number yourself and initiate the call. Next, don't call a number left in a voicemail or sent via a text message. No reputable organization is going to request a callback via a text message. Third, only download applications through official channels. Your friendly neighborhood IT department will not call you up and ask you to download and run a file from the internet. Be familiar with your organization's IT department and verify the caller's identity if they're going to ask you to visit a website, download a file, or run an application. Lastly, never give out personal or corporate information over the phone. Attackers often call repeatedly, obtaining information bit by bit until the big picture becomes clear. Even the smallest detail can be used by an attacker to leverage a much larger attack. Follow the old Navy saying, "Loose lips sink ships." They will have specifically chosen this identity based on what information they are trying to gather. Don't let your mind assume they are safe because they sound like any other call you might receive. If they claim to be a person you can find a number for, simply place them on hold and dial the real number on another line. If you get to their voicemail, compare the voice and see if it matches. If another person picks up, then you clearly know something is amiss. If you know a trusted individual who can vouch for a caller's identity, don't be afraid to ask. For the more sensitive situations, an in person arrangement might be the best response. We know what you're thinking. I'll just use caller ID. That never lies, right? While that might work, in some situations, a skilled attacker has ways around that. Remember to stay attentive, skeptical, and in control. Checking identities on phone calls may seem extreme, but without it, an attacker has the upper hand from the start. At this point, it might seem the best solution is simply just disconnect your phone, internet, and email, and go live in the woods with Bubba and the Doomsday Preppers. Fortunately, that's not necessary. Don't be afraid to ask questions or provide a skeptically professional response. Excuse me, can I get your name so I can call you back at the number provided on your website? Or, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable providing that information over the phone. How about, our company's security policy prohibits me from providing that information. These are all great responses that help protect you personally as well as your organization from attack.
Oh, sorry. My microphone is off, and I hope you guys didn't hear anything. So let's play this once again and then we can answer the questions. Sorry.
Phone attacks. Now that you've mastered email phishing kung fu, let's move on to everyone's favorite thing, phones. You probably use your cell phone for Facebook, Clash of Clans, and Angry Birds more than you do to make phone calls. Don't worry, we do too. Regardless, communicating through "Ye on telephone" is an extremely common practice in organizations. As such, you can imagine attackers love to use phones in social engineering attacks. Let's go over some differences between phone email attacks. You might think that a phone call is more risky to an attacker. While that may be true, a single call is worth 1,000 emails when done correctly. Careful wording, pacing, tone, and pretext can let an experienced attacker talk their way around just about anything. Let's go over these tactics so you know what we mean. First, pretext is the backstory an attacker uses to describe themselves or their situation. As with email, an attacker may do research to make sure the backstory for contacting you is believable and appears to be legitimate. Remember to apply a healthy dose of professional skepticism, even if they lay down the smooth lines of, "Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe." Next, pacing a call means controlling how time sensitive the conversation feels. For example, an attacker might rush the conversation so you examine the request poorly, or possibly slow things down to make small talk and gather more information. Last, word choice and tone might be used to appear friendly, authoritative, or confused depending on what they need from you. If they claim to be in a position of authority or refer to you by a friend or boss, you might be more inclined to follow their directions or ask fewer questions. Similarly, you are more likely to trust someone who seems humorous and personable. So let's talk about how you might go about verifying that someone who is they say they are on the phone. An attacker might start the call stating their name and position to establish pretext and trust. Depending on who an attacker is impersonating, they might try to get you to give up sensitive information or run an application on your phone or workstation. There are 4 lessons to remember to become a phone jitsu master. First, be wary of incoming calls. Caller ID can be spoofed to match the organization an attacker might be impersonating. If you don't initiate the call, how can you be so sure they are who they say they are? Look up the phone number yourself and initiate the call. Next, don't call a number left in a voicemail or sent via a text message. No reputable organization is going to request a callback via a text message. Third, only download applications through official channels. Your friendly neighborhood IT department will not call you up and ask you to download and run a file from the internet. Be familiar with your organization's IT department and verify the caller's identity if they're going to ask you to visit a website, download a file, or run an application. Lastly, never give out personal or corporate information over the phone. Attackers often call repeatedly, obtaining information bit by bit until the big picture becomes clear. Even the smallest detail can be used by an attacker to leverage a much larger attack. Follow the old Navy saying, loose lips sink ships. They will have specifically chosen this identity based on what information they are trying to gather. Don't let your mind assume they are safe because they sound like any other call you might receive. If they claim to be a person you can find a number for, simply place them on hold and dial the real number on another line. If you get to their voicemail, compare the voice and see if it matches. If another person picks up, then you clearly know something is amiss. If you know a trusted individual who can vouch for a caller's identity, don't be afraid to ask. For the more sensitive situations, an in-person arrangement might be the best response. We know what you're thinking. I'll just use caller ID. That never lies, right? While that might work, in some situations, a skilled attacker has ways around that. Remember to stay attentive, skeptical, and in control. Checking identities on phone calls may seem extreme, but without it, an attacker has the upper hand from the start. At this point, it might seem the best solution to simply just disconnect your phone, internet, and email, and go live in the woods with Bubba and the Doomsday Preppers. Fortunately, that's not necessary. Don't be afraid to ask questions or provide a skeptically professional response. Excuse me, can I get your name so I can call you back at the number provided on your website? Or, I'm sorry, I don't feel comfortable providing that information over the phone. How about, our company's security policy prohibits me from providing that information. These are all great responses that help protect you personally as well as your organization from attack.
Okay, thank you very much, guy. I hope now you can all hear me loud and clear. Okay, good.
Yes, we can.
Great. So let's quickly go to the questions and see if we can do something about it. You work in HR at FedUp Shipping. One morning, you receive a phone call from a person claiming to be from IT. They say some alerts have been triggered for your Windows account and they need your employee ID and username to verify your identity. How should you respond? 1, give them your employee ID, but not the username. 2, hang up immediately. IT never calls you. 3, write down their name, politely hang up and report the call to the supervisor. And then 4, give them your friend username or give them your friend's username and employee ID to see if they notice. So which one do you think is the correct answer? Is it the first one? The third one, that's write down their name, politely hang up and report the call to the supervisor.
Yes, the third one.
The next second question says, should you ever go to an unknown website or run an unknown application at the request of someone on phone? Should you do that? Yes or no?
It's a big no.
Are you sure? Okay, no. Okay, let's move to the third question. You receive a call one afternoon from Master Express credit card company. The lady claims that some suspicious activity has happened on your account and it has consequently been frozen. She needs your account number so she can verify your identity. What should you do? Ask to speak to her supervisor first. Second one, ask for a callback number, then verify the number belongs to your bank. Call them back on your own time. Give her a fake account number or hang up immediately. Which one do you think is the correct answer? Ask to speak to the supervisor, ask for a callback number, then verify the number belongs to your bank, call them back on your own time. Give her a fake account number, hang up immediately. Which one do you think is the correct answer?
The second one.
Ask for a callback number, then verify that number belongs to your bank, call them back on your own time. Do you have any different answer? Do someone have any different answer? Okay, the second one, let's take it and see. True or false? Since caller ID is foolproof, I can use it to verify the caller's identity. True or false? Since caller ID is foolproof, I can use it to verify the caller's identity. True or false?
False.
False. The last one says, what information is safe to give out on a phone call? Your name and email address, your SSN number, SSN, and birth dates. None of the above, your supervisor's name. So which one do you think is the safe to give? None of the above. Okay, so let's complete the quiz and see. It's 100%. Thank you, guys. Let's come in-house and see what we have for our own selves. So thank you very, very much for passing by. And once again, Merry Christmas to all of us here. Today, we've always been seeing this, kind of mandatory training happening every now and then, but we don't know how it's being generated. So quickly before we move, we are going to go to Sophos and see how some of the things are being done at that point, at that particular area. So today, the hands-on we are going to do is we are going to do something short on Sophos, and then we can come back and do what we have for the day. So this is going to be a very short demonstration. So when you look at Sophos, if you are familiar with this software, as soon as you open, you come to the dashboard, this is what you normally see. We have the total alert, the high alerts, the medium alerts, and then the low alerts. So these are some of the items that you see on Sophos. But what we are going to do today is we are going to treat these two, the fish threats and then the email security. The fish threat has to do with the mandatory training that we've been seeing every now and then. Anytime we have, we start our CIS, we go through a training just to show us, just to give us a good understanding of some of the things that are happening within our environment, just to inform us, to give us, information about things that can happen to us. So sometimes we do, try ourselves here, and then we catch up with some employees who will fall victims to some of the, things that will come. So if you look at the fish threat dashboard that we have here, you can see that we have cybersecurity class, 2nd December 2023. We have employee monthly training. We have all the other areas that you can think of. So from the dashboard, we have the reports. This thing tells you that we have various groups that we give out trainings to. So depending on the number of groups that you are in within SoftAfrica, you'll be receiving training sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes once every week, depending on where you belong to. Most of us employees and other staffs, you do belong to different groups that will receive, at least 3 trainings per week, which everyone expects us that we should do. So sometimes you be thinking, from where you are sitting, you might think that, oh, I've been sent the mandatory training, but I didn't do anything about it. No one would know about that. But believe you me, as soon as the training is being sent to you, we have a record of who has received that training. So if you look at here, you can see we have cybersecurity class, 12 December 2023. So 100% of this training has been sent out. So that means every single member on that group has received that particular training. So you can see that the training has been delivered. But from the 100% that has been delivered, only 59% or 59 email delivers. Okay, that is 100%. So out of that, we have some people who have opened the email, who have viewed the email, others have not. So that is what it's telling you. So when you click on that, you will see almost everyone who has opened the email after receiving the email. He has viewed the email. But when you look at this one, we have Oracle and Kofi who has done his, and I think Duncan Daddy, he has also done his, and the rest of the people, some people from here, just Media Aku and the rest, they have all taken their mandatory training. That is what happens most of the time. So we have the various reports from here, all enrolled members and the rest. We have people. So if you want to add any particular person or want to add any group, you can use here. This is the way we use to add any user. But after adding the person's name, we have various groups that we already have. We have the cybersecurity class, we have the employees, we have the internship students, we have, potential cybersecurity student dependent. You can see the classes vary from 2022, 2023, we have March, we have May, we have December, and the rest. And we have groups too as well. So the groups, with the groups, we have the cybersecurity class and everything. So I can decide to create another group, okay, and have people in that particular group. For instance, I want to have a new group by name Sadiq. Sadiq, that's the name of the group. Let's say 23. Okay, so the members, we have all the people here that have already, that have been added here. So I can decide to select any other person and add him to the group. So anyone that I added to the group, you can see that the person's name has been added to the other side, has been taken to the other side. So I can decide to, let's say, after adding these people to this particular group, I can go forward and say, okay, I'm just going to save it. I have a new group here. So you can see that the group will be there by name Sadiq group. So this is a Sadiq 23. This is the group that I have. So I have these members, and then every now and then I can assign a policy, and then every now and then I can decide to send them a training that you have to undertake. Okay, but this is just for demonstration. So I'm going to, I will delete it, as we go on. So we have the various campaigns. So these are the campaign. So I can decide to have a new campaign. So as you can see here, we have all the names, the year and everything. So if you want to check, you can see that we have, out of this cybersecurity class, as for this cybersecurity class, the training that was sent on the 9th December 2023, only 4 people finished the training. Okay, so out of it, 59 people were sent the training. They all received the training. Some of them opened it, others didn't, and the rest just ignored whatever, for whatever reason, who knows. But we can see that only 9 people were able to take the training, and then we have the records here. So if Mr. Barry wants to know the number of employees who have been taking their training before he can give them Christmas bonus or something of that sort, he doesn't have to ask anyone. He will quickly come here and then look at the employee session, and then we'll be able to tell that, hey, out of this all employees, the training that has been sent, how many of them were able to do their training? So you can see that if he checks, he will see, oh, okay, this number of people, only 3 people finished their training. So only 3 people are qualified for, how do you call it, the Christmas bonus that he wants to give. Okay, but in the case that he realized that some employees are complaining that we've not received training, we didn't see the training, and they are complaining, he can come here and say, okay, he will try to training reminder. He sent a training reminder. Okay, so he will send an email from here, just send the reminder, and then every single person that belongs to a particular group will receive that reminder to tell him that, hey, you have to take your training, or you have to redo the training, or what have you. So this is basically what we do when it comes to sending the mandatory training, the training that we always do before we start the TIS. The next one would be on email security. Okay, email security. Sometimes when you look at the dashboard here, you can see that about 7,989 emails have been scanned. Inbound emails, emails that are meant to come into the South African system, have been scanned. And out of them, 3,485 emails are potential threats. These are emails that have been identified as potential threats. This is for the last 30 days. We can look for the last 7 days. We can look for yesterday and the rest. So when you check for last 7 days, you can see that the number has dropped. Only within these 7 days, 1,646 emails have been scanned, and out of these, 627 are potential threats, and then 10 are into the mailbox. That is the inbound, mails that are coming into our system. The outbound, the mails that are going out from South African system, you can see that 3,179 have been scanned, and out of them, it's only 6 that has been identified as bad emails. Emails that are moving from South African system to the outside world. 6 of them have been flagged as what? A bad email. And then let's look for yesterday. For yesterday, we have 226 email sent that has been scanned. That's for inbound, and 81 out of it is a threat. The ones that are coming are the ones that are going out, 858, one potential threat. So these are some of the things that happen as far as the mails that we send, the mails that we receive is concerned. Today's topic, we are going to look at something on log reports, but for one reason or the other, we are holding on to that particular topic because the resource person will be in to take us through. So you can see that from here, the log report, you can see these are the reports for the mails that we send in or receiving. Some have been delivered, some have failed to deliver based on or due to 1 or 2 reasons that the mail we send out are not being sent and what have you. So we can add users to this particular area. We can add people to it. We can have the mailbox as well. The column tab, we're not going to go with the column, but we're going to look at a policy. Earlier on, I made mention of some of the messages that are being sent from the organization to the outside world have been flagged as malicious or as, a threat. Why? Because of this policy. So you can decide to add a policy. When we have this policy, we have data loss policy, we have email security, and we have secure message. These policies we set within to take off malicious insider. So when we're talking about cybersecurity, we've made mention of malicious insider. A malicious insider is someone who have bypassed all the intrusion detection system in place. This is a worker who sits in the office of South Africa, working within South Africa. If this worker wants to cause any harm within the organization, you can see that he has bypassed all the intrusion detection system that South Africa has. And he is not sitting within the system of South Africa. He can decide to, divert, to send any sensitive information from South Africa to the outside world. Maybe he's spying or he's informing on South Africa and what have you. But if the South Africa system has it in such a way that a policy has been set, that would take care of data loss. Okay, so if that person tries to send something as far as data is concerned, anything that has to do with data, then the system will catch that thing. It will not allow it to go. So Sophos will not allow it to go because they realize that this person is trying to send an information to the outside world that he or she is not supposed to do that. Okay, so it's all based on this policy that is being set. So when you take the data control policy and then you add that policy, any member, any person, if it's an employee or any group that you have, group of employees, and then you have all the people being added to that particular, policy. So anytime that person, any person within that area, within that group, tries to send anything out to the outside world, that thing will be captured and will be flagged as what's a malicious thing, because as far as anything that has to do with data is being mentioned in the thing that he or she wants to send to the outside world. So that is the main reason why you've seen that some of the messages that is being sent, emails that is being sent from South Africa to the outside world is being, tagged as threats, because probably the person is trying to send something that has to do with data or anything that has to do with sensitive information to the outside world. So that is what happens. So any message that is coming to South Africa, the system is designed in such a way that it will just hold that message. It will just quarantine it. Okay, being it a spam, being it bulk message, or what, until or unless that particular person or site sending that message is a legitimate site. Okay, so if not, the system Sophos will quickly capture that message and it will quarantine it. So what will happen is that if, for instance, I'm expecting a message from an email from Amazon, or maybe an employee or a student, a former student of South Africa's, CV has been uploaded to other job sites, and then he has, or we provided them with his South Africa, email address, and they are sending him an email because it's coming from a source that is not being recognized, that is being allowed within the system. All that the system will do is it will quarantine that message. So when such happen, Mr. Kwame boss will just call me or any other person and say, hey, this particular person is expecting, or the person will come to him, boss, I've applied to this particular thing and I'm expecting a message and I've still not received anything. So he will call on me or any other person and say, okay, there's a message. This particular person is expecting a message. So kindly go to Sophos and check if the message has been quarantined or not. So if I come here, the only thing that I'll do is that I will just look at it, look through and see to the quarantine. If there is any message that has been quarantined, I'll just go to that message, check this box. So I'll just check this. When I check, you can see that the whole thing has been highlighted again. So what I will do is just, okay, he's expecting this message for only one time because the source is still not a good source, so we don't trust it. We don't want to be receiving any message from that source. So I'll just release that message for him to be able to have access to that message. So I'll come here without reading it. I'll just go check the box and then click on release. When I do that, the message will be released to him, to his inbox, and then he'll be able to read it. But if it is a source that he will be receiving messages from every now and then I will do a release and allow. So when I do a release and allow, then every time there's message from that particular area, from that particular source coming into our system, it will automatically go to him without being quarantined, because the system has now understand that this message is a good message and we are expecting any message from that particular area. So it quickly releases it and allows it. The same applies to if a message is a bad one and I want to delete it for the first time. I can check it and then do a delete. When I delete it, it wouldn't stop from there. Anytime a message from that particular area comes, it will still come, but it will be quarantined. But when I delete and block that message, that means anytime there's anything, any message from that particular area, it will not even come into the system because it has already been blocked, because the email address has been tagged or flagged as a bad one. And for that matter, any message that is coming from that email is automatically blocked and deleted. So it will not appear here again. So that is it for, Sophos when it comes to email security. So you can decide to filter, to change the dates. This is from 20th to 27. You can decide to make it 1 month, you can decide to make it 3 months, you can, depending on how you want it, you can do whatever you want as far as this thing is concerned. And if you think, whatever, message or whatever policy that you set is not appropriate, you can decide to also review that policies and then change the policy. So every time you can decide to bring in any new policy and then you do whatever you want to do as far as setting a control for, taking care of, malicious insiders is concerned. So that is it for Sophos when it comes to email security and what have you. So if anyone has any question, you can bring it, and then we'll just do that before we move to the topic of the day. Do we have anything? Do anyone has any question as far as this area is concerned? So this is just a quick one on Sophos. Do we have anything on Sophos? Do you have any question? If not, we are going to move to the topic of the day. Initially, we stated we tried to do something on, how do you call it, system logs, of which we wanted to kind of do, but due to consultation, due to 1 or 2 things, we decided to delve on zero trust because the year is coming to an end. And as the year is coming to an end, we need to have a total change going into the new year. We need to change the way we do things, the way we handle things, the way we deal with things, as far as we and people living around us, as far as we and our system is concerned. So I just sat down and thought that having a zero trust as a topic for the day would be one good one. So next week, God willing, the resource person will come again with the system log. We'll do that next week. But today we are going to do something on zero trust. So when we talk about zero trust, it's nothing, but it's just don't trust anything. You have to verify everything that you come across, everything that is coming around, that is coming to you. You have to make sure that you try to check it and check it well before you, allow that thing to move. Most of the time we do, see things and then we'll be like, oh, this thing, I know it already, I trust it. So just forget about it. No, 2024, we have to have a zero trust attitude in that anything that you're going to do, you have to verify to make sure that this thing is truly what it says it is. We have to authenticate, and then before we authorize. So being it your phone, being it your machine, being it your system, being it anything at all, anything physically and virtually, everything that comes that you are going to deal with, you have to make sure that you check it before you allow it. Okay, so zero trust is just a network security philosophy that states no one inside or outside the network should be trusted unless their identification has been thoroughly checked, as I stated. So the term was first coined by John Kinderberg at Forrester Research in a paper published in 2010. So he explained how traditional network security model fails to provide adequate protection because they all require an element of what? Trust. So zero trust requires mutual authentication to confirm the identity and integrity of a device, regardless of location, to grant access based on what? The confidence of the device identity, device health, and user authentication combined. So these are one of the things that you have to know as far as zero trust is concerned. So with the zero trust, you have the data, you have the user, that is the users, that's me and you, we are the users of the machine. You have the devices, that the machines that we use, being it a virtual machine or a physical machine, the network traffic, what goes in and out of our network, the applications that we use, and then the information or the data that is being seated in our server. So these are the things that you have to check. The users, you have to be thoroughly checked. the devices that we use, the network that we are connected to, the traffic that is flowing within that particular network, the applications that we use, and then the data that is sitting within our system. The principles of zero trust, we have device trust, the user trust, the transport session trust, and then the application trust. So the device trust, this by implementing solutions such as device management, device inventory, and device compliance and device authentication. So device implementation, device management, how to manage your device, how to check the number of devices that you have within your system. You have to have a 360 watch on all the devices that you have within your system in case you want to conduct or you want to do any vulnerability scanning. You know that I have this particular machine, I have this scanner, I have this. You know all the devices that you are using, and you know their health, and then the authentication, how to allow any device into your system. The user trust is comprised of what? The password authentication, multi-factor authentication, and conditional access and dynamic scoring, all geared toward what? Providing this user. So the user, you have to know who is logging into my system, what user authentication mechanism or tools is he using, what time within the hour of the day is he accessing my system. For instance, if a worker of an organization is trying to conduct a honeypot scan for the system late at night during odd hours, that should raise some concern. That should raise an eyebrow because it's not the normal thing that is being done. Okay, if a user always stays awake late when everyone is leaving the work, unless he or she has a special task that he or she has to fulfill. But if not, just like that, he always stays late within the organization, or is always trying to fetch some information late at night within the organization server or system, that should raise a concern. So these are some of the things that we should be looking at. We wouldn't say, oh, because this particular person is a worker of our organization, so anytime that he wants to access anything in the system, he can do that. No, we have times that we deal with it, unless, as I stated earlier on, he has a special task that he or she has to perform, then we would understand. But if he doesn't have anything, he doesn't have any right to try to conduct any scans, anything within the organization server late at night or during odd hours. Transport session partners parameter goes on the principles of least privileged access to resources by limiting access rights to user and applying a minimum permission required to perform a given work. When it comes to granting access to workers, the least privilege is what is advised to be assigned to every single work, unless he or she has a special task to perform. Okay, if someone is maybe a worker who is coming to manage or he's coming to fix something within the organization, he has to be granted access within the area that he or she is going to work. You don't need to grant him, unlimited access, like you grant him access to everywhere. This particular thing could cause a problem to the organization. Enhancing the application transfer parameter are made capable with tools such as single sign-on and the rest. So analytics and automation orchestration. So these are all some of the things, how it evolves. Data, which data do you have to protect? So you have to know the data that you need to classify your data. Okay, data classification here is very important. You need to classify the data and know which data you have to, give it the highest priority. We have top secrets, we have secrets, we have confidential, we have sensitive but unclassified, and then we have unclassified data. So depending on your organization, you can decide to, arrange your data so that you give priority to the topmost. Like for instance, if you have a top secret, the kind of protection that you give to that one wouldn't be to the same kind of protection that you give to an unclassified data. For instance, This question was asked some weeks back, that if, for instance, you've been given an information, a bunch of data, of which they are classified data, sensitive data, unclassified data, and the rest. And you've been asked to, protect or keep this data. How are you going to put this data? How are you going to keep it? Some people will say, okay, because this data consists of all classes of data, then I can make it, okay, all unclassified, depending on the need. But if you are confronted with such a situation, all that you need to do is to put all the data as a classified data, so that you give it the strongest protection. In case there's anything, or you have to classify it as a top secret, so that you give it a special protection. So in case there's anything that is unclassified within that particular data, if you give it out, you still get the rest of the data protected, so that no one will have access to that particular data. But when you make it open data and you have a top secret within it, if a third party lays his hands on the top secret, okay, or if a third party lays his hands on the organizational top secrets, then he can cause a lot of damage to the organization. So when you put everything as a top secret, and when there is a demand for unstructured data or unclassified data, you just go fetch it, give it out. When there's a demand for top secret, you know that, oh, it's still protected. Applications, we have assets. When we talk about applications, that are the tools that we use within our machine. When we talk about assets, these are some of the machines that we use, are all classified as asset, machine printers, and what have you. Services and multi-factor authentication. These are all things that we do to make sure that everything that we do is under wall protected, okay? Because we talk about zero trust. So that means everything that you give it out, you have to make sure that you check it. We have endpoints verification. Endpoint needs to be verified to make sure that each one is being controlled by the right person. So when we talk about the endpoint, these are the machines that we use. So it has to be well protected, and make sure that the right person is the one in charge of that particular endpoint tool. We have the microsegmentation. Microsegmentation involves creating zones within the network to isolate and secure elements of network that could contain sensitive information or provide access to malicious actors. The zero trust security approach benefits from microsegmentation, because once the secured area has been micro-segmented, it is protected, okay, from threats. The firewall or the filters that forms a barrier around the zone can also block threats from exiting the zone, which protects the rest of the network. So segmentation is also very important. Least privilege, as I stated earlier on, you have to assign access to allowing users and devices to access only those resources that are essential to performing their duties. You don't have to, give them extra duties or extra access that they don't need. Zero trust network access. Zero trust network access is an element of zero trust access that focuses on controlling access to applications. Extend the principles of zero trust to verify users and devices before every application session, to confirm that they meet the organization's policy to the access to the application. So how it works, we have the customer data with a financial record, employees information, proprietary collateral such as blueprints and patents, right? We have network equipment like servers, switches, and then routers. Limit access to data. You give your team visibility, reports, you analyze analytics, monitoring, and then the logs. So you limit access. Determine what resources such as user needs to access to perform their duties. So the same applies to the least privilege. You give your team visibility. When your IT team has visibility, they can help users get the most out of the network and keep a watchful eye on the system. Visibility zone may include the reports, user activity reports, can be analyzed to identify attempts to break into the system. So the various reports that you gather, okay, the various logs reports, the various information that you gather as far as the system is concerned, analytics, analyze user activities over a period of what time, may reveal patterns of behavior. So when you analyze the activities of a user within the system, it will show you the kind of behavior that is happening. Some people trying to assess, some people trying to fetch for information late at night, some people trying to do one or two things with the system. Monitoring, real-time monitoring of the system can reveal hackers attempt to what? Infiltration as they happen. Logs, when system activities is logged, you can analyze the data to look for anomalies that could be due to attempted breach. So logs, that is what we are going to talk about next week. It is very important that we keep an eye on various logs that logs into our system. It doesn't matter whether you're using a computer system or not. Even within the physical environment, you have a building that you receive people within the building. You have to make sure that you take the login information, the time people enters into the building, into the organization, and the time they leave. In case there's anything, you'll be able to tell that, oh, at this particular time, we have this number of people within the system, or within this hour, this is the number of people that we have, so that in case you want to conduct any forensic, in case you want to conduct any search or anything, you can easily have a small amount of data that you will deal with, instead of thinking of the people that are in the organization for the whole month or something of that sort. But when you have the log, it limits your work, and then it's make you have an accurate work within the shortest possible time. So it's important that you keep record of the various logs. Benefits of zero trust. Many enterprises have adopted the zero trust philosophy when designing their security architecture for several reasons. One, for protection of customers' data. Two, reduce redundancy and complexity of the security stack. Three, reduce need to hire and train security professionals, and the rest of the things. So we have this use case. There are many use cases with the zero trust, but because of time, we don't want to go over it, but maybe we can go through one. There have been many notable security breaches caused by trusted third parties, such as the notorious Target breach, offering broad access to outside organizations, could be disastrous. Zero Trust addresses this problem in two ways. First, with strict authentication using multi-factor authentication or other identity and access management platforms that enables each outside party to be assigned a permission category that defines their access within the network. So segmentation can limit access to just that part of the network required to perform the task or transaction with the third party. Zero trust on Internet of Things. The growth of Internet of Things devices continue to escalate, with predictions of nearly 15 billion IoT devices by the end of 2023. I think realized we've achieved this. More than 15 IoT devices has been in the system now. So their ubiquity and often limited to security capabilities demand that a zero trust approach be taken when considering IoT access to the network resources. For example, IoT devices can be isolated to a single network segment designed for just that purpose. So limiting the compromised IoT devices access the lateral spread to other more sensitive network assets. So that is a single user case or two user cases. Recommendations. So all that we recommend is you trust nothing, you authenticate everything. You trust nothing, you authenticate everything. As I started with my presentation, 2024, you trust nothing, you authenticate everything in your homes, at your workplace, with your wife, children, everything. Your friends, you trust nothing, you authenticate everything. Assume all devices are compromised and never trust any device that has not been verified. So zero trust to assist with endpoint security by pushing identity controls out to endpoints to help ensure devices are first enrolled before access is granted to corporate resources. Devices enrollment also simplifies identifying and verifying every device granted access and ensure devices meets zero trust security requirements. You adopt network micro-segmentation or network segmentation. A zero trust network architecture only grants access to small segments of the network at a time. So, and only to users who confirm they are authorized to access each network segment. User and devices authentication are carried out at a microsegment level. Connectivity to each microsegment is based on the need to know model. So no DNS, domain name server information, internal IP addresses, or even visible ports of the internal network infrastructure are transmitted. To access any individual segment, user must pass strict identity and device verification procedure for every section might be authenticated, authorized, and then accounted for. So you limit access based on the principles of least privilege, limit permission and access to the absolute minimum required to perform a specific task. If a user only requires read access, don't grant him read or execute access or read and write access. If he needs read, just give him read access. If he needs read and write access, you grant him both. Principles of least privilege equally applies to users and devices. So IoT devices connected to applications or connected applications and microservices should only be granted the minimum permission level required to complete their transaction. Multi-factor authentication, we've been talking about this, has become the popular for consumer banking and financial websites. It makes perfect sense as a part of zero trust environments as well. As a rule, multi-factor authentication requires users to present at least two things, including what they have and what they are. So the minimum zero trust network IT must have a clear picture of all the users and devices that have access to the network and what access privileges they require to do their job. Ensures that network security policies are kept up to date and test policy effectiveness regularly to make sure no vulnerabilities have escaped unnoticed. So you continue compliance monitoring, including monitoring network traffic constantly for unusual or suspicious behavior. You have a visibility at a traffic flow level and at a process data to context level to better enable mapping normal traffic flow to better get irregular communication pattern. Have a well-defined firewall, enterprise gain, deep visibility and comprehensive policy control from a single pane of glass. So that is it for zero trust. As I stated earlier, as I said earlier, this is going to be a very short lectures, and I hope you've all had something that we can all take home with. Zero trust, as I stated, you trust nothing, you authenticate everything. That is the new themes for 2024. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm here. If you have any question, you can bring it up and then we'll see. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much for your question. Someone asked if he wants to be an intern, how would he be able to do that? I think we have Madam Janet here. So you can quickly, after this session, you can talk to her or talk to myself, and then we'll get you enrolled into South Africa as an intern to have a career in cybersecurity. So before the end of the class or after this session, you can contact Madam Janet. She's also here, and then we'll see how best we can get you admitted. Thank you very much for that question. Any question again? In the absence of any question, I'm going to leave you to Madam Janet to also take us to the last part of this presentation.
And Shafiu, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone present here today. And in fact, to all our first timers, I'd love to say a big thank you to you. This is Soft Afrique, a leading IT firm, and we currently run a cybersecurity plus course. Our admissions is always rolling, so we enroll every month. If you take a course from us, you can expect nothing but the best. Let me mention just a few. You enjoy a cutting-edge curriculum. You enjoy hands-on labs where real-world experience is taken. You can also enjoy expert-led sessions and great networking opportunities also. And then certification. These are just a few I've mentioned. We have more. For the purpose of the time, I'd love to move on. Okay, so for the question, how do you become an intern? You can just apply and then we'll respond to you. You can reach out. You can reach out to us and then we'll respond. Yes, so for the seasonal greetings to you from Soft Afrique. Merry Christmas to us all. So we are not leaving anybody out. Let me start with all our prospective students. We are running special offers this season for all our prospective students who are looking at taking any course in cybersecurity. Yes, we've got you. We are giving 10% discount on all our offers there. We're also giving a whopping 50% discount on our hands-on training. This offer lasts till 31st. So take advantage of the season and then join us for this program. So for all our existing customers or all our existing students, we are not leaving you out. We are giving you a 1-month subscription on our Horizon IPTV. Yes. So you've got something to enjoy from us also. The session happens every Wednesday. Our Threat Intelligence or TIS session happens same time every Wednesday. So you can join us each and every Wednesday to learn more about cybersecurity. And then we have orientations every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join in and get to know more about our course and then gain more interest to come and take this course. Thank you for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye from here.